Hey guys, it's TRIZE here, back with Automation, the car company Tycoon game in the most powerful engine series. We're going to be building the most powerful V8 engine in version 4.2. There has been an update to this game recently, which is version 4.2.4. In this update, the devs have further improved the stress limitations of the turbos to squeeze a bit more power than before. For my previous builds, they are unfortunately out of date as I've gotten those engines to be at least 8% more powerful than before. So now, let's get started with the specs of this engine. So first things first, on the top left portion of your screen, you set the year from the year of 2012 to the year of 2020 to get the most out of the engine. And after choosing a V9-degree V8 engine, and it's also important to use the 9-degree configuration for this build, you may choose any block material that you could choose from. I'm choosing magnesium for the sake of weight and everything. For the bore and stroke here, you square this off, max this out to 120 millimeters each to get the engine size to 10,857 cubic centimeters, or around 10.8 liters, with dual overhead cam 5 valves made out of aluminum silicone. And for this quality slider, as you see here, you set this to a plus 15 for everything. No matter it's for the engine in general, the top end, bottom end, turbocharger, fuel, exhaust, everything. For the internals, you gotta have a harmonic damper with a billet steel flat plane crankshaft. Well, in the past, when I made the 3600 horsepower V8 engine my most popular build, I had the crossplane configuration of the crankshaft, while the flat plane version will give you like an extra 3 horsepower. So if you're to come across an engine, use flat plane because this is more powerful. And continuing on, for the con rods, you must use lightweight titanium con rods with regular forged pistons. For the compression, like every other single build, you max this out to a 15.0 to 1 ratio at an extreme level, with the cam profile set to a 71, and the springs and lifters, like my previous build, at a soft 25 with VVT at all cams. For the turbocharger, we gotta have a twin turbo setup with a smart boost system, with the intercooler maxed out to 12,100 horsepower, with a variable geometry setup with ball bearings, with the compressor, of course, maxed out to 120 millimeters, the turbine at 108.6 millimeters, the trim at 100, and the max boost at a pretty high 50.8 psi. For the fuel system, you probably know about this one, so we're going to be using a direct injection throttle per cylinder race intake running on the newest DevMeth fuel, with the fuel mixture set to a 10.0, the ignition timing set all the way up to 100, and the RPM limit just a tad up to a 6,800 RPM. And lastly, for the exhaust and everything, we gotta use short cast headers with a dual exhaust, with the exhaust diameter set to 171 millimeters, which that equals to 6.75 inches. And of course, no cats, no mufflers, bring that quality up. And we get the final horsepower rating of 4,484.1 horsepower at 6,800 RPM. The torque at 3,694.8 pounds-feet of torque at 6,200 RPM. And as we can see with this engine here, there is considerable amount of stress with the pistons, con rods, and crankshaft at both RPM and torque stress, making the total reliability of a 2.9. Well, if you were to run this engine at BeamNG, it will run, but do notice it could overheat later down the road. And real quick, let me go over the V16, 12, and 10 engines after this brand new update of 4.2.4. For the V16, what I've changed compared to my original version, which that makes over 8,900 horsepower, is that I made this a dual overhead cam 5 valve. The cam profile raised up to a 97 with the springs and lifters to a 48, and the max boost set to 46.4 psi. For the V12 that makes over 7,300 horsepower, if you were to copy that build and put it onto here with this current version of the game, unfortunately, the turbocharger will break apart. For this update, I've managed to increase the cam profile to an 86 with the springs and lifters at a 59. For the compressor trim, lowered it down to an 81 with the max boost set to 49.3 psi. Going on over for the red line is that I increased this way up to 8,800 RPM, and lastly, I removed both the first and second buffers to get the final rating of this here engine. And last but not least, with the V10 up in here, the wannabe Dodge Viper engine, is that I go to the top end everything with the cam profile, springs and lifters, is that I almost max this out to a 98 with the springs and lifters set to a 37. for the fuel mixture and everything is that I did lower this down, I think one click, to an 11.0 with the red line set to 7,000 RPM. So let's get back to the V8 engine and give you here what it sounds like. So due to time constraints and everything, I'll just give you here what this engine sounds like by doing some fake gear shifts, by getting rid of the graph here and do this for like 35 seconds, 40 seconds, right around that time period. So give you here what this engine sounds like right now. The engine is surprisingly not so loud compared to the previous versions of the game, which is kind of weird. So that'll do it with Automation, the car company Tycoon game with this powerful V8 engine. Since this game is still in the alpha stages of 4.2, I'd expect this build to last for a few months until they make improvements that could either make things better or worse. It caught me by surprise that they released this version of the game, but whatever. At least I managed to make the engine more powerful than ever before as of right now. And for those who are interested in this type of content, please be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss out on any videos like this in the future, including my automation to BeamNG Drive videos too. So this is TRIZE rising up and signing out.